As a freelancer, you ain't gonna be making money unless you make friends with this guy and her too. Yeah, maybe not him. Your likelihood depends on having good relationships with your clients, so they'll want to work with you again and again. But I've experienced so many freelancers committing simple mistakes and holding unhealthy mindsets that when I asked clients what they thought of this new individual that they just worked with, I'd get a subtle head shake of disapproval, knowing I'd likely never see them working with that person on a project again. So what were they doing wrong? How can you avoid getting the head shake of disapproval from Billy over here? Well, you could avoid being too eager. You've landed a project with that big client you've always wanted to work with, and you're pretty nervous about wanting to impress them. So you think being super on point by sprinting full speed down the corridor to grab that coffee that they've requested is the best way to show them just how good you are at the job. Don't do this. Not only is it super off-putting to work with someone who doesn't seem to give a about the project, but it's also equally cringe to see someone who's trying so hard to be a teacher's pet that they're at every beck and call of the client no matter what they want. No normal person acts like this, so why do you think it's attractive to give off the impression that you do absolutely anything for the clients? This will either lead you to being taken advantage of by a client who can just smell how willing you are to do anything to impress them, or it'll make them not want to work with you because you have the energy of a little puppy dog all excited when their energy is more like an adult cat who carefully wants to consider their work without you jumping up and down around them. To be fair, I'd rather hire someone eager to learn and get better versus an arrogant douche who thinks he or she is better than everybody else, but they're both not ideal personalities to have in a collaborator. For me, the ideal energy of a new collaborator should be that they have a sense almost like they want the job, but they don't actually need the job. You're gonna do a good job and help as much as you can, but if this client suddenly fired you or critiqued your working practices, you'd perhaps be a little hurt, but you'd take it on the chin and apply it whilst continuing to work with them. Of course, this is easier said than done when you do, in fact, care a great deal that you make the most of this opportunity working for this person, which is why developing your interpersonal skills is arguably the best ROI for your freelance creative career. But by taking the time to analyze if you're falling too far to either side, the side of the super eager puppy or the I don't give a at all cat, you'll at least be able to play around with these energies to see how you can work on falling more closely in line with the client's vibe. And no, you're not pretending to be somebody that you're not by doing this. Yeah, you might be a super hyper-social person with your friends, but you can also develop that slightly more considered and introspective side of you, especially in situations when people don't need your hilarious comedic observational skills. This dust blower looks like that thing that you would put in a bum hole. Sorry. A good rule of thumb is to work with your client's energy. So if they're super hyped about putting in the time to work on the project, give them that same effort and focus as they're putting in. But if your client is being pretty crap at responding to your messages, sometimes giving them space rather than, constantly nudging them into the same communication style that you have is counterproductive and will ultimately make them question why they chose to work with you in the first place. Number 2 is not setting clear boundaries on the project's scope. If a client can get more out of you than other collaborators, they're gonna. Hey, this 1-week job is gonna look great on your portfolio. So much exposure for you. No pay, but it'll be worth it. Early in your career, it's basically a rite of passage to say yes to unpaid work. But after you've gotten some experience in the field, you need to consider not only what the client expects from you, but also what you expect from them. A simple example would be to make a contract before you do any work. That way you'll both understand the expectations of the collaboration and it'll protect you if the client is being evasive about paying you in any way. I learned this the hard way by working with a client on a short film a few years back, only to have him ask me once the film was already shot to color grade it when this was never originally agreed upon during pre-production. He then threatened not to pay me until this was done. Just FYI, I actually did end up getting paid because I sent him a solicitor's letter that I could just find online, and that scared him enough to think, oh no, I don't want to get sued and I'm in the wrong, so I better go ahead and pay Adam. If a client is funny about putting a signature on a little piece of paper, they're also going to be funny about paying you at the project's conclusion. The crazy thing is that people actually respect you when you stand up for yourself and set clear boundaries for how the working relationship is going to be. I had a very recent example of this when I was asked to help shoot content for another YouTube channel. We wrapped our shoot day a little earlier, and the client wanted to take some cool photos of the students that he was working with for their dating profiles. He asked if I could do it. I said, of course I can, but for a price. After that, the client just decided to save their money, not pay me, and just do it for themselves. The 3-year version of me would have just said, yes, of course, no worries. I'd be happy to help with this extra thing. But in principle, I was hired to work with them as a videographer and not a photographer. And even though I can do photos, this was not part of the agreement for why I was hired. It's extra work. Therefore, it required the client to be charged extra for this additional service. Now, if I was genuinely not confident with my photography skills, I would have just said yes, because it'd be a great opportunity to hone my skills and get some shots in my portfolio that if I ever needed to flex my photo taking skills to another client, I would have had something to actually show for it. But on this day, the hour or two that I would save being able to spend time back at my Airbnb to script more YouTube videos was more valuable than what I would be getting out from doing this freebie photo shoot. So unless there was a financial incentive, the incentive was not high enough for me to do it for free. There's no hard and fast rule with this, and you build your instincts as you get more experience with different clients and personalities. But I'd say generally, if you're quite a people-pleasing person, and it's very common for you to do favor after favor for clients because you want to impress them and help them in as many ways as you can, try saying no a few times. It's a skill that'll help you so much throughout your career, and it'll weirdly have the effect of making clients respect you even more.
Wait! I respect what you said.
And value your skills to a higher level because you know what your time and expertise are really worth to them. It'll give you an air of confidence that the guy who can easily be taken advantage of doesn't have. And even though that guy might get hired more, he's gonna get paid less and be treated more poorly, meaning in the long run, you're gonna protect your enthusiasm for your specialism while pocketing more money for fewer hours than the, yes, of course I'll work for free, oh, great client kind of guy. Number 3 is basing your performance on the amount of pay. Regardless of how much you get paid, the client expects the best of you. So if you do someone a favor deciding to work with them for less than you usually would, you can't then think you're able to put in 50% less effort than you would if you were getting paid your full amount. Yes, you get paid based on your skills and negotiation abilities, but it doesn't work in reverse. You can't just be less good if your pay is less than your usual rate. Putting in the effort to show up your skills is pretty much essential when you're starting out because you'll be doing loads of low paid and free work, and that's worth it because you're hopefully gaining so much knowledge and experience and connections too that you're kind of mitigating against the fact that you're not pocketing that much cash. But even when you're an established creative, there's going to be opportunities that come up where the budget just isn't great, but the other benefits you'll potentially get from working with that high-end client are worthy of sacrificing for the money you'd usually get from doing similar projects. The point is to give so much value that your clients feel they're getting such a good deal by having you for free or cheap that when you negotiate for more money on the next project, they'll pay it because it's obvious how good you are. You won't need to prove anything at that point because they already know how your presence is a massive benefit to the end results of their projects. Deciding when to say yes or no to a project is in itself a skill that you can build. I actually made a video about this 2 years ago for the method I use when to say yes or no to film projects I work on, which is my particular area of expertise, but the same thought process can easily be applied to any field. So I'll leave that video in the description in case you want to check it out. But perhaps the biggest red flag for any client is if you're late and unreliable. This basically communicates to your client that you don't know how to prioritize things and that you don't really care about them. You're putting other things ahead of the work that they've paid their hard-earned cash to hire you for. If you really cared about the opportunity that you'd been given, you'd do anything within your power to make sure that you got there on time and or that you deliver the final project on time. You'd keep your clients updated with drafts of your progress and timeframes for when certain project milestones will be reached. If you really don't think you're going to be able to finish the project on time, it's better to say no to it than to do it in a rushed or half-assed way. You likely won't get another opportunity to work with this client if you do a crappy job for them. And worst of all, your name will carry a stain on it that your client will pass on to all the other people that they have in their network. I've personally not hired people again after experiencing them being late or just generally unreliable. From the perspective of a client, it causes stress and anxiety if they feel the project isn't going to be ready on time because you're either working way slower than they expected or you're just not managing the expectations of when each step of the project will be completed. Unexpected things, of course, happen sometimes in life when you happen to be in the middle of a project, and if this does occur, simply apologize to your client as best as you can and potentially offer them a discount or partial/full refund depending on how far along you are with the work that you've done. It's the least you can do to attempt to heal the trust you fractured from making their lives more difficult. So manage your time better and you'll have a more chilled experience working with this person, giving them and yourself as little stress as possible while creating a lasting positive impression of your work ethic. And finally, number 5, not keeping active with finding new clients. Clients are the lifeblood of your freelance career. If you can't find and or keep clients, you won't be sustaining a freelance lifestyle for that much longer. Creatives can get pretty complacent once they land that one high-paying or recurring client, and this can lead you into a false sense of security, thinking you have it all figured out and you can just kick back and chillax and just spend all your free time doing whatever you want. This isn't a smart strategy. Life goes through rhythms, and something that's been good for the last year or two might not be the same way next year. I had this with a long-term YouTube client, and that pesky virus almost took all of that regular income away from me, and it made me realize I was coasting and putting almost zero effort into client acquisition or building additional funnels into my business as a freelancer. That's honestly why I initially started doing YouTube, to have a library of value and content for other freelancers and creatives to consume that could potentially one day become an income stream for me. If you don't want to go about finding new clients because time-wise you just can't practically be in more places, try building things that can give you an income remotely, things like, YouTube, digital products, etc. These things are of course easier said than done, and it takes time to build up an audience for. So it's not the best solution if you're after some kind of income fast, but it's the most scalable in the long run, and you're not bound by your location, which, as the Rona has taught all of us, is always a prudent way to safeguard your options. Ideally, you should grow this alongside freelance clients so you can have the best of both worlds in being able to say yes to the jobs you'll actually enjoy and rejecting the ones you probably won't, because now you have an abundance of options and you don't need their money to survive. It'll also have a secondary effect of making you look better because you seem to be in high demand and people can't even get a hold of you for a job because you're just that good and everybody wants you, when in reality it's because you're making more money from that sponsored YouTube video ad versus that dilapidated hospital that they want you to go film a project at. Oh, it's scary, I don't want to go. If you're in need of some harsh realities about starting and sustaining life as a creative entrepreneur, you should check out this video here. I've also started a weekly newsletter where I share even more insights about how to grow your creative freelancing potential. The link for that is in the description if you want to check it out. It's completely free. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.